Wonderful. Awesome. Very, very good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Shannon, super excited to be joined here with you today. How are you doing?
Good. Excited to be here.
I've really, really enjoyed getting to know you, and so look forward to our conversation. But before we get started, a little bit about yourself and Edward Jones. I personally have been very, very inspired by the firm's mission. Would love to hear firsthand from you.
Sure. So Shannon Favazza, you got the introduction. I'm a principal at Edward Jones, responsible for AI and strategy. And just by way of just an overview of Edward Jones, we're a wealth management firm managing $2 trillion in assets across all AUC bands of clients, so serving clients across all AUC bands and providing advice. We've got about 19,000 branch teams located all across North America. We're in 70% of counties, so pretty significant scale. 10,000 more branches than our, the next largest broker dealer, and about 2,000 more locations than McDonald's. So if you're tooting around town, you're likely to see an Edward Jones office, especially if you're in the Midwest, which is where we have a lot of locations.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Shannon. If that's okay, I would love to set a little goal for ourselves over the next 15 minutes or so. Let's talk about how to adopt and accelerate AI across Wall Street to Main Street.
Yeah.
And share the lesson learned. I think you have had a ton of success in this space. Would love for everyone to learn from what you have seen.
Sure.
But I think before we talk about how to adopt and accelerate AI, let's talk about what is AI for you. It has become so many things to so many people. How do you define AI?
Sure. I really think of AI as being computer systems capable of doing human-like tasks. So that can include, large language models and machine learning and NLP and now generative AI. But at Edward Jones, and actually the introduction here was really, really nice. We think about AI in kind of two different ways. There's artificial intelligence, and then there's advisor intelligence. And we think about the two of those together is how we're gonna think about AI in our strategy. And advisor intelligence to us is really that human side of the equation. Doing things only humans can do, like contextualizing past, present, and future, or empathy, or human relations, connections, those types of things, critical thinking, judgment, curiosity, all of that. We think AI can be a great co-pilot to the advisor and augment that advisor intelligence to make advisors more productive in doing their work and take the drudgery out of the work, kind of bring joy back to serving clients by eliminating a lot of the stuff people don't want to spend time on that's not, human-centric.
I really, really liked the way you described AI, the advisor intelligence translation of AI, and I guess the need to strive for the human connection.
Yep.
Also, what hit home when you said co-pilot, but not as a software from Microsoft or others, rather co-pilot as a metaphor to drive the human collaboration.
Correct.
Wonderful,
Correct.
Wonderful. So in the world where you can practically do everything with AI, where are you focusing on, and how are you using AI to scale in your business as well as in financial services?
Yeah, so we definitely see AI as being a huge accelerator of productivity. I mean, the business benefits are real. Lots of studies out there about how AI will augment, human productivity pretty significantly. And naturally, that's going to be in certain tasks like writing, programming, ideation, strategic analysis. So no doubt there will be significant impacts in that space. But I think what I'm really most excited about is what humans will be able to do with that increased capacity and productivity. And that's something I've been thinking a lot about, is as the human role kind of drifts towards the strengths of unique humans and we become more productive. There's a McKinsey study that shows that by 2030, we'll have 20% less financial advisors in the US. And all I can think about is all of the investors who need financial advice and yet won't have access to that. And so I think AI brings a a great opportunity forward for advisors to become more productive and be able to serve clients, serve investors who desperately need financial advice and otherwise wouldn't have access to it. So very, very excited for that, and that's something we've been thinking about.
Wonderful, wonderful. So if I may summarize, use AI to create capacity with creativity,
Right.
essentially. Love
Exactly.
that, love that. I also recall, to your point, a study from MIT recently which talked about how generative AI, especially and broadly AI, can boost the productivity by up to 40%, provided you have established a system of accountability as well as a culture of accountability in the firm.
Right.
Do you mind sharing a few lessons that you learned along the way? How did you establish that system and culture of accountability?
Yeah. We've definitely learned a lot of lessons. I think 2023 was a year of a lot of lessons learned for us as we've gone on this journey. When I think about that, one of the greatest lessons has been centralization of decision-making around AI and obtaining C-suite sponsorship. Regarding centralization of decision-making, I think, ChatGPT truly was like the best evangelization tool ever for AI and the power of it for non-tech users. And so we had business leaders all over our firm and executives interacting with ChatGPT, hearing about it in the news. And that was amazing because it was much better than me and my team who'd been saying, hey, we need to do more of this and there can be so many business benefits. Now people were starting to see it. And in that, then everyone starts spinning up their own initiatives of how they're going to use AI to solve their business problem, and they're talking to consultants and vendors. And then, all those efforts start coming into our centralized areas like analytics, data, tech, risk, compliance, legal, et cetera, and hitting us for support for these different initiatives. And I think, quickly realized that we were going to move forward a lot of work incrementally, but nothing substantially. And we certainly weren't being discerning about what the most important work was and what the most important use cases were to begin learning from and to advance our strategy and what we're trying to achieve as a firm. So in light of all that, the firm named myself as the AI steward for the firm, and then I was able to centralize intake of all use cases through one channel where we could assess like feasibility, where we had the greatest opportunity to learn in a low risk way, but also the most critical few use cases that we needed to focus our energy on and accelerate to advance our strategy and help serve our clients. And so that was that. Once we figured that out, we were able to move very quickly. And I think 24 is going to be a year of great acceleration because of that. The other thing that we learned about was it was like the C-suite sponsorship thing was so critical.
Wonderful. So if I may paraphrase that in one line, in the world of limited resources, don't be everyone's training wheel. Rather,
right.
Take the driver's seat, be the change.
Yep. And we wanted to centralize learning, and we wanted to make sure we actually were learning and advancing this. And it wasn't just happening in all these like fractured ways, which is what was starting to happen before that.
Wonderful. You touched upon C-suite, and I remember someone saying that while consensus can provide the safety net, provide the safety blanket, it can also kill innovation. Mm-hmm. How did you drive the C-suite momentum? What did you have to do differently?
Well, and that's something we've been working on for quite some time. And really, I'd say it was about finding a natural sponsor in the C-suite. And so for us, that was my leader, who is the chief strategy officer. And he really saw the opportunity for AI in our business and the potential and was willing then to champion it to other C-suite members, help us overcome barriers along the way, which are significant, right? You need funding, there's compliance and legal barriers that have to be worked through, technology barriers, new ways of working, all of that. So getting his sponsorship was really important. And then he was able to advocate for things like the need to have a centralized intake function and centralized decision-making, which then gave us the authority and position to do that, because it's not popular to tell people they can't do things. And so he was great at being able to do that and help build momentum. And then the other thing we did is, we learned that we would sell AI better and by creating experiences for people to see the power of it. And so we really focused on creating like scrappy POCs for our executive team that they could experience the benefits of AI and start to see how it's going to impact our business. And so a couple things we did with that, we actually used the images we have of our C-suite members and videos and voice recordings that were all property of the firm and made avatars of them. And then in a C-suite meeting where they were talking about the future of our firm, we had their avatars when they showed up speaking to them about the future. And there was like what? And the point was, hey, the future is here, it's now, and we're able to do these things. And everyone else is able to do these things. And so what does that mean for our business? And it's moments like those that I think started to really shift thinking and get buy-in. We also developed some generative AI-powered chatbots that different stakeholders were able to use, some to learn, and I think they were hooked up to GPT 3.5, just to learn and experience, and that was with the C-suite as well, but also other key stakeholders in the firm, and then even on some trusted internal content that they could ask questions of as well. So just starting to get, these were not scalable, but they were just things to get experiences out there for people to interact with, and also for us to start learning from, like, what does it take to do this stuff, and then what would it take to scale it?
Wonderful, wonderful. So it sounds like a cautious optimism, but with a radical bias to action.
Yes.
Love that. And I know you perhaps could only share some POCs, and there were a ton more POCs that were more proprietary in nature that were not done. I remember someone saying that no one ever in industry runs out of idea, but people do run out of resources and time, and which is perhaps why 80-90% of all the AI projects fail.
Yep.
How did you choose your POCs? What did you do differently to increase the chances of winning and improving the success of your AI projects?
Yeah, so I think we've really focused on human use cases first, and we think about AI transformation as more than just a tech transformation. And I think quickly realized if we think about it as a tech transformation, we're going to leave a ton of value on the table and have some fairly low adoption. So we think about it across mindset, skill sets, and tool sets. That's like the three swim lanes of the enterprise transformation for AI. And so you've got any idea you pick, any use case you pick, you think first about, okay, how is this going to impact people? Is it going to be adopted? Is there a need for this work? Is this one of these things that's going to bring joy back to work for people that they're going to want to do? And then is it, for the early learning use cases, we were looking at, low risk things where we could learn from. But essentially, you have to shift mindsets, skill sets, and the tool sets along the way. And so with mindset shifts, we're thinking about ways we can help, increase trust of AI within our organization. I think there's a lot of just natural distrust by what people see in the news. So we want people to say, like, hey, this is a co-pilot, this is not a job replacement, this is gonna help you, have more joy in your work, take the drudgery out. But also, like anything we put out, providing transparency into it so they can understand it. And then skill sets, it's teaching people how to do prompting so that especially generative AI chatbots can actually be helpful to them and they can get better results. It's teaching people that, first iterations of these things are not right all the time, and models get better with time and they need to be tuned. Like those are all new ways of thinking and working for people. And we don't want them to just throw the, baby out with the bathwater if, the first chatbot experience they have, they don't deem to be super helpful. So a lot of work in those two spaces and layering that in with the tool sets that we're rolling out. And then the tool sets have to be embedded in workflow in a way that is intuitive and kind of limits the cognitive load from a design experience for the end user. So it's easier. And that's what I think the ChatGPT interface had that was so great. And so we're just going for simple and easy to use to drive higher adoption and higher value creation.
Love that. So I think if one thing we can take away when building your AI tool, remember all three legs, the skill set, the tool set, and the mindset.
Yep,
Wonderful.
and I think In some ways, I think the tool sets are one of the easier parts. I think the mindsets and the skill sets are the hardest part across an organization of, for us, 60,000 people. Everyone's at a different spot, and people that use these tools are in varying degrees of seeing the value in them, wanting to use them, trusting them, being able to use them. One thing we talk about too is just applying critical thinking to what you're getting. Like, it looks right when you look at a generative AI answer, and if it's providing you advice, if a human was providing you that advice, let's just take our service line. If you were to call our service line, you might question it more if it's coming from a human, because humans aren't always right. And you'd probably apply some critical thinking. When you're using a chatbot that's powered on the same content, and it looks right because it's so authoritative in how it speaks, you're more likely to take it. And so we want people to think more about that and apply their own judgment and human skills. And so we've been thinking about, how we make sure that's all present when we start rolling these things out. And in many ways, I think that's the bigger transformation. So we have behavior science involved, lots of change management experts, HR, et cetera.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. It reminds me of our own EY's Next Wave strategy, which talks about human at center, technology at speed, and innovation at scale. Mm-hmm. And to your point, whether it's AI, whether it's digital transformation, these are the things that cut across the whole value stream, and not to be forget the human connection at the center.
Yeah. So that is an interesting study. And so I guess, what have you seen? Because you've worked with a lot of different firms. So what are you seeing as lessons learned in this space?
Yeah, I think you've hit on many of the common patterns and the common themes that we are seeing across the industry, and including financial services. Mm-hmm. I guess if I look at the common framework of solving any problem with a problem solution benefit, or why but how, simply put, most of the firms across the industry have moved away from why. Mm-hmm. And by that, what I mean is most of the firms have both realization as well as recognition of the exponential value AI brings to the table. AI will be the new internet, AI will be the new mobile. There's a very little dispute about that anymore.
Yep.
Almost everybody has, I hope all of this room also agree with that. When you think about what, I guess majority of the firms in the financial services space are mid-journey, and no pun intended with the mid-journey, but they are mid-journey in defining the distinct and the distinctive set of use cases. What are the use cases that are table stakes? What are the use cases that are gonna get them to parity? What are the use cases that are gonna drive differentiated value and make them, different in the market in the coming days and years? And then comes the how, and I would say that's where majority of our focus has been over the last 12 months, if not more, where most of the firms who have figured out the prioritized set of use cases are now focused on how do we bring it to life. Mm-hmm. And I think if I may take a few more minutes, I would take, I guess, the lesson learned among how and categorize them in 3 big buckets. One of which is data, or invest in building your data foundation. Data is your differentiator. Treat it well. Mm-hmm. And why I say that is because when you think about AI is really made of 3 things: the hardware, the software, and data. Or other way, the chips, the algorithm, and the data. Data is your differentiator because both hardware as well as software, through OpenAI and other LLMs, are now commoditized. Mm-hmm. You may be ready for AI, your firm may be ready for AI, but is your data ready for AI?
Yep.
Is it available? Is it accessible? Is it understood? Is it trusted? Is it protected? I think a lot of people continue to kind of miss out on that part while building the data foundation.
Yeah, and I think that's accelerating a lot. I totally agree, because I think about, is your data ready? This has accelerated the need for all of that. And I would also add then your content. So for us, we have so much internal content that we use to power our internal search engines, employee SOPs, all of that. And I think we're probably further along in our data organization than we are in the quality of our content organization. And so it's been, for us, both. And I'm hearing that from other firms too, because if you want everything now to become searchable, you really need to start thinking about content governance as well as data.
Correct. I would perhaps go a step further where I think we need to get away from the data and content and start thinking in the terms of knowledge.
Yeah.
Really converge your data repository, converge your content repositories into the knowledge repository and democratize access to that knowledge for AI to be accessible.
Yep.
I think last thing I would say to your point in this first bucket of the 3 buckets and how is around POCs. And we see a lot of firms just doling tons and tons of money on the POC, but pilot for 1x, design for 10x, and build your foundation for 100x, right? Because you want to be able to have industrialized, sustainable projects, not the ton of school projects running in your sandbox environment.
Yep.
So that's the data foundation. I guess the second stream that we are seeing in a common practice in industry is around analytics governance. And analytics governance is the key.
Yep.
Please dare to be dull. Dare to be dull with the analytics governance. And why so? Because IT is deterministic. Calculator, same question will always yield the same answer, but not with AI, which is probabilistic, which then leads to several governance requirements, whether it's hallucination, whether it's bias, whether it's transparency. How do you get ahead of all of those when it comes to implementing your AI projects?
Yep.
So,
And I want to take that one step further too, because I think something we've recognized and talked a lot about is, sure, we have what we develop internally, that's really important, but AI is now happening all around us, and all the systems that we use, all the softwares we use, it's starting to be integrated. And so we've actually had to take a full inventory of everything that we're using and talk to the different software vendors and tool vendors we have around the features that they've got on their roadmaps, what they're thinking about, what they're developing. And then we've had to put controls in place to make sure that as those features are introduced, that we have the right governance around it, and we're not just like letting it be fed in, but instead making sure like we've tested it, we feel comfortable from a risk perspective. We also did a scan of all the websites that associates were accessing, and put blockers in place for all the websites that had AI in them, because we want to be very, very intentional about the tools that are being used that have AI in them, that they're following our governance process, and then they have the right training for associates with it.
yeah, that's spot on, because I guess poor governance is one of the reasons that we're seeing across the industry that can kill credibility and is typically the reason for most of the AI projects to fail.
Yep.
Yeah. I would wrap with I guess the third of the 3 buckets that I was thinking about is truly around, I guess avoid the dystopian fear of AI. And I think we continue to hear, the utopia and the singularity and the Terminator moment with AI, but remember the Federal Bank of Missouri has a really good paper on it. It's called the lump of labor fallacy, which talks about the misbelief of us thinking that the amount of work in the world is fixed.
Yep.
That pie continues to grow.
Yeah.
I think when you go back 80 years, most of the employment was in farming. Then you go back 40 years and Industrial Revolution 1 and 2, most of the employment was in industries. More recently, most of the employment is associated with technology, and in future it will be co-piloted with AI.
Yep.
So I guess,
And that's what I'm so excited about, because I never think about it as a replacement for humans. I just think about our work's going to become slightly different, and we'll add value in new ways, solve new problems. Innovation will get faster and better, and I think about healthcare, and I think about financial advice, like things people really need and don't have access to. And I'm really excited about the future when we have co-pilots in those spaces.
yeah, me too. So, I would pattern back what you said, continue to use AI as an efficiency tool, continue to use it to create capacity, start to do more with same, and then eventually more with less.
Yeah.
Does that all resonate with how you went around this journey? And
Very much. I mean, I think spot on. can't emphasize enough the importance of starting with your business strategy and understanding, what are the problems that you can solve with AI for your clients, for your colleagues, for your firm, for society, and start there. Develop your prioritization framework around that, just being very human first in how you think about it. That's, I sit in firm strategy, so always gonna take that lens, I suppose. But just being very, I guess specific about what you're focused on, and then agree completely with the data and content and risk management. But overall, get started. I think don't wait to get it all figured out and perfect. Start learning now would probably be, if I'm sure most people have, but that'd probably be my biggest advice, and that's what we did last year.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you so much for your passion, and thank you for sharing that passion with us.
Yeah.
If it is okay with you, I would like to wrap us slightly unconventionally.
Okay.
I have a few rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
And Shannon doesn't know what those questions are going to be. So,
okay.
I'm very excited about the spontaneous responses on those.
Okay. We have 2 minutes. I just got the
warning. There you go. Shannon, what was your last ChatGPT prompt? Mine was, by the way, to find some referenceable codes for the start.
Okay, I used actually to craft my talking points for this. I did put some things into ChatGPT to see what would resonate with different personas. So I did a little bit of a persona check with that. And then my literally most recent one was, I have a 7th grade daughter who had history homework and was asking me about the Constitution at 10 o'clock at night. And if you've been there, it's like, I want to go to bed. And I was like, hold on. So I looked it up, and she's like, what is that? And I'm like, nothing that you need to know about.
That's incredible. Thank you. I think that was really spot on. Second question, in the world where you could write a book about AI, it could be anything, the technical, non-technical, bringing it all together, what would that book be about?
I think it's about sort of what we hit on, that humans aren't going out of fashion, and we're going to be doing really great, uniquely human things, and what is that next frontier? And what is that going to mean for society? Oh,
wow. I love that. As I was thinking through this question, I guess my answer would have been, Mark Andreessen of Andreessen and Howard's wrote a paper about how software is eating the world 7 years ago, and more recently wrote an essay about how AI is going to save the world. So I was thinking something on the lines of how software ate the world, but AI saved the world.
All right.
Wonderful. I guess the last question, keeping our 2 minutes warning. AI goes back like 1940s. 1943 is when the first neural network paper came out, and a lot of scientists were still debating around deterministic form of computation versus probabilistic form of computation. Ended up going down the path of deterministic, and hence we have the computers and the laptops, and more so probabilistic side where neural networks are playing into algorithms today. What is your oldest memory of AI?
I think for me, it's probably the use of Spotify and Netflix, which at times I think know me better than I know myself. And I'm like, there's nothing better than Spotify recommending a song that I totally forgot I loved as a teenager, like some 1990s rap song. And I'm like, oh my God, that was a great song. So yeah, I think it's those platforms, and when I started using those.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you so much. It was an honor. Thank you.
Thanks.